I still remember that night. It was late, the sky was heavy with clouds, and the wind whispered strange secrets through the trees outside my small house. I had just finished cleaning the kitchen after dinner when I heard the softest thump from the basement. At first, I thought it was just the old pipes settling. But then, something in my gut told me it was more than that. I've always trusted my children completely. They were my pride and my joy. Every day, I would watch them play in the garden, laugh loudly, and share secrets with each other in whispers I could never hear. They seemed innocent, kind, and full of life. I never imagined that there could be anything dark hidden behind those bright smiles. But that night, I was about to realize how little I really knew. Earlier that day, I had called a plumber to fix a small leak under the kitchen sink. Nothing serious, just a dripping pipe that had been bothering me for a week. He was supposed to come in the morning, but he called and said he would arrive late because of traffic. I didn't mind. The kids were in their rooms, quietly reading or drawing. I was sipping tea in the living room, enjoying the silence. Then the thump came again, louder this time. It was coming from the basement. My heart skipped a beat. I told myself it must be the wind, or maybe a box had fallen over. But a small, uneasy voice inside me whispered that something was wrong. I called my children. "Dinner's ready," I shouted, hoping to get a normal response. Silence. Just silence. That's when I noticed the faint glow of a light coming from under the basement door. I never let them go down there alone. The basement was dark, musty, and full of old boxes and memories I'd tried to forget. It was a place where shadows seemed alive, where noises carried in strange ways. I took a deep breath and crept toward the door. My hand shook as I turned the knob. The smell hit me first, a mixture of damp wood, dust, and something else I couldn't identify. Something sharp. Something wrong? The door creaked loudly as I pushed it open. My eyes adjusted slowly, and I saw nothing, or at least nothing obvious. Then I heard it, the sound of whispering. Quiet, careful whispers, almost like a secret being shared. My children's voices. My children who had always been so innocent. My stomach twisted. What were they doing down here? I stepped further in. The basement was cold, colder than it ever was before. The light was dim, flickering from a small lamp I hadn't seen before. And then I saw it. At first I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. A box, old and worn, slightly open. And inside, I couldn't believe it. My hands went cold and my knees felt weak. I wanted to scream, to run, to call someone, but I couldn't. I was frozen, watching as my children leaned over the box, whispering, careful not to make a sound. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught fragments, words that made my blood run cold. No one can know. Not even Mom. Keep it safe. That was the moment I realized I didn't know them at all. The kids I had raised, hugged, and trusted were hiding something. Something dark. Something dangerous. My heart pounded, my hands shook. I wanted to confront them, but I knew that if I did, I might push them further into whatever secret they were protecting. Suddenly, the basement door creaked again, not the one I had opened, but another. And there in the corner of the room was a shadow. A man I didn't recognize. A man with tools in his hands. The plumber. I hadn't even heard him enter. And the look on his face. It was not normal. It was a mixture of shock, fear, and something else I couldn't name. I froze. My children froze. And the whispering stopped. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. My mind raced. What had they done? What was hidden in that box? And why did the plumber look like he had just seen a ghost? Before I could think of what to do next, the plumber spoke. His voice was low, almost trembling. You need to see this," he said. And with that, he pointed toward the box. I stepped closer, every nerve in my body screaming. My children looked at me wide-eyed, caught between fear and guilt. And then I saw it. The truth. Something I never could have imagined. Something that would change everything I thought I knew about my family. I wanted to look away, to close my eyes, to pretend none of this was real. But I couldn't. The secret was there in front of me. And once you see something like that, Kay, you can never unsee it. And that's when I heard a second noise, soft, almost like breathing, but it wasn't human. It came from the shadows behind the box. My heart nearly stopped. My hands trembled. I took a step back and the light flickered again, casting long, strange shadows on the walls. The plumber whispered again. I didn't expect to find this. Nobody should. His voice trailed off, and he looked at me with a mixture of fear and urgency. I realized then that my life had just changed forever. The kids I thought I knew, the family I had trusted completely. They had secrets that could destroy everything, and I had no idea how deep it went. I wanted answers. I needed answers. But I also knew one thing for certain. Whatever was in that basement, it was only the beginning. And as I closed the basement door behind me that night, heart racing, I knew I had to uncover the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be. But I had no idea what I was about to discover next. I still remember that day. The morning light barely touched the corners of my house, and I hadn't slept a wink. My mind kept going back to the basement, to the box, and to the shadowy figure behind it. I kept replaying the plumber's words over and over. Nobody should see this. But what had he seen? What were my children hiding? I tried to keep everything normal, as if nothing had happened. I made breakfast, called my children to the table, and smiled as I poured their cereal. But the smiles were fake on their faces and mine. Every glance, every small movement felt like a warning. I was watching them closely now, noticing every little detail I had never seen before. The way they whispered in corners. It's the way their eyes flicked toward the basement door whenever I walked past it. After breakfast, I made an excuse to go outside. I needed space to think, to breathe, away from the house that suddenly felt like a cage. The air was crisp, but it didn't help calm me. The leaves rustled in the wind like quiet voices. I couldn't stop imagining what could be down there. My hands shook, and I kept tugging at my sweater, trying to distract myself. By mid-morning, I decided I had to know more. I couldn't just wait. But I also knew I wasn't ready to confront the kids directly. They had been so careful, whispering secrets, hiding something too heavy for their age. So I waited for the plumber to arrive again. I told him I needed the leak fixed under the sink, but my real plan was different. I wanted to see what he had seen in the basement, without raising suspicion. When he arrived, he looked tired but alert. His eyes met mine, and there was a flicker of warning there. I felt a chill run down my spine. He didn't say a word about the basement at first. He went straight to work, opening cabinets, checking pipes, making notes in his small notebook. I hovered nearby, pretending to watch him work, while really watching for any hint, any clue, any movement that might tell me what he knew. Finally, after what felt like hours, he spoke. "Look, I'm not supposed to say anything," he began, his voice low, "but you really should check your basement carefully. What I found, it's not normal, and it's not safe to ignore." My heart jumped. "What did you find?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He hesitated, swallowing hard. It's something your kids are hiding. Something that should never be in your house. I don't know how to explain it, but it's dangerous. You need to be careful." I felt my stomach twist. Dangerous? My kids. How could something my children were hiding be dangerous? I wanted to ask more questions to press him, but he shook his head. "I shouldn't talk about it here, but trust me. What's down there is big. Bigger than you can imagine." He packed up his tools and left, leaving me with my thoughts, my fear, and the quiet house that suddenly felt too empty. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I had to see the basement again. I had to face whatever was down there. But this time I would be prepared. I grabbed a flashlight, my phone, and a small toolbox, anything that might help me if something went wrong. The basement door loomed in front of me, darker and heavier than I remembered. My hand shook as I turned the knob, but I forced myself to push it open. The cold air hit me like a wave, stronger than before. Dust swirled around my feet as I stepped down, the wooden stairs creaking under my weight. The lamp flickered faintly in the corner. The box was still there, just as I had left it. My children were not around this time, but the silence was worse than their whispers. I moved closer, holding my flashlight steady, my heart hammering in my chest. Then I saw something that made me freeze. Scribbled on the walls, almost hidden in the shadows, were strange drawings. Lines, shapes, symbols I didn't understand. Some looked like maps. Others looked darker, almost like warnings. My hands shook as I ran my fingers over the paper stuck to the wall. I had never noticed them before. They were old, faded, but they seemed important, urgent, even. I backed up a step, feeling dizzy. That's when I heard it. A soft creak behind me. My heart stopped. Someone or something was there. I spun around, flashlight cutting through the darkness, but saw nothing. The shadows seemed to move, twisting unnaturally. Then I heard it again, this time closer, a whisper. My name, I need to know, I whispered to myself, gripping the flashlight tighter. I need to know what's happening here. I approached the box again, slowly, my breath shaking. The lid was slightly open, and I could see inside. But I didn't dare look fully yet. Something in me knew that once I did, there would be no turning back. The secret, whatever it was, would change my life forever. Suddenly, I heard footsteps on the stairs above. Quick, light, almost too fast for a child. Panic surged through me. Were my children coming down? Were they hiding something I couldn't handle? I held my flashlight like a weapon, ready for anything, and then I heard a voice behind me, not my children's, not the plumber's. It was low, strange, almost unhuman. You shouldn't be here, it said. I spun around, and in the corner of the basement, I saw something move, a shadow detaching itself from the darkness. My heart raced so fast I thought it might burst. My legs felt frozen, my mind screamed to run, but my curiosity, my need to know the truth, kept me there. And in that moment, I realized I was not alone in the basement. Whatever my children were hiding, it was far worse than I had imagined. I barely had time to breathe before the shadow moved closer. And that's when I saw it clearly. I still remember that day. The air in the basement felt heavier than ever, as if the darkness itself was pressing down on me. My heart was racing so fast that I could hear it in my ears. The shadow in the corner didn't look human. It was tall, unnaturally still, and moved in a way that made my stomach turn. My mind screamed at me to run. But my feet refused to move. I gripped the flashlight tightly, pointing the beam at the shadow. Its outline wavered like smoke, but I could just make out the shape of a person, or something that looked like a person. Then I noticed it, small, careful footsteps behind me. My children were there. They had come down the stairs quietly, watching me. Their eyes were wide with fear and guilt, and their hands trembled. "Mom," whispered my youngest. "Please don't." Their voice cracked, and I felt my heart break. I wanted to comfort them, to tell them it would be okay. But my mind was consumed by the shadow. I needed answers. "What is this? What's happening here?" I demanded, my voice shaking. The shadow shifted slightly, and then I realized it was not just a figure. It was guarding something. Something hidden behind it. My flashlight flickered, and for a brief second, I caught a glimpse of what lay beyond. The top of another box, bigger than the first, sealed and marked with strange symbols. My blood ran cold. The children didn't answer. They just looked at me, pleading with their eyes. I felt a mix of fear, anger, and desperation. I wanted to scream at them, to demand the truth. But part of me understood they were scared. Something in this basement had terrified them too. I took a cautious step forward. The shadow moved slightly, almost like it was alive, almost like it could sense my fear. My flashlight beam trembled in my hand. I need to know what's in that box," I said. My eldest child finally spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, some things should never be found, never touched, never spoken about." Their eyes filled with tears, but there was a determination there too, as if they were trying to warn me. I swallowed hard. I've seen things already. I heard things. I need to know the truth. Whatever it is, I need to know. The shadow didn't move again, but the air around it seemed to shift. A cold breeze brushed past me, carrying a faint metallic smell that made my stomach turn. I felt sick, but I couldn't stop. I had to know. Slowly, I moved closer to the larger box. Every step felt like a battle against the fear clawing at my mind. My children followed reluctantly, their hands brushing against the walls as if the basement itself might reach for them. The shadow remained in place, but I could feel its presence watching my every move. When I finally reached the box, I hesitated. The symbols on the top were strange, almost alive, and I had no idea what they meant. My hands shook as I reached for the lid. I wanted to stop, to run, but my curiosity, my need for truth was stronger. And then the shadow moved. It lunged forward suddenly, faster than I could react. My flashlight dropped to the floor with a loud clang, and the basement was plunged into darkness. I could hear my children scream, small, terrified sounds that made my chest tighten. The shadow's movement was swift and precise, almost intelligent. It circled the box, guarding it, daring me to touch it. I grabbed the flashlight and turned it on again. The beam cut through the darkness, and I finally saw the shadow clearly. It wasn't human. Its eyes glowed faintly, an eerie yellow light that seemed to pierce right through me. Its arms were unnaturally long, reaching almost to the ground, and it was whispering. Soft, low words I couldn't understand. But the tone made my blood run cold. My children backed away, huddling close to me. I felt their fear, their desperation, and my own fear doubled. This was no ordinary secret. This was something I had never imagined could exist in my own home. Something dark. Something alive. Something that had chosen to hide in the basement for reasons I couldn't yet understand. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands. "What are you? What do you want?" I shouted, my voice echoing through the basement. The shadow paused, and for a moment I thought it might answer, but it didn't. Instead, it let out a low, almost human-like growl and moved closer to the box. I realized then that whatever it was guarding, it was important, terribly important, and my children's secret, their fear. It all revolved around that box. Suddenly, I heard a soft click. The lid of the box rattled, and I froze. Something inside it was moving. Something alive. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it would burst. I wanted to look away, to run, to never return. But my eyes were glued to that box. I had to know Dot, and then just as I was about to reach out, a sound came from above the front door of the house opening. Someone was entering. My mind raced. Who could it be? A neighbor. The plumber again. Or someone else. The shadow hissed, low and warning, and my children screamed. My hand was on the box. My life, my family, and my sanity were about to collide with a truth I wasn't ready for. I still remember that day. The front door had slammed shut with a loud bang that echoed through the house. My heart jumped so violently I thought it might tear through my chest. The shadow in the basement hissed again, low and menacing. And my children clung to me as though I could somehow protect them from whatever dark force was here. I didn't know whether to scream or stay silent. Every instinct screamed that I was in danger, but a small, stubborn part of me demanded answers. I cautiously pointed my flashlight toward the stairs. Whoever or whatever had entered the house was somewhere above, and the noise had startled the shadow. It moved away from the box slightly, its glowing yellow eyes still fixed on me and the children. I could feel its awareness of every heartbeat, every nervous twitch. The basement, already heavy with dust and cold, seemed to grow darker, thicker, as if the shadows themselves were alive and breathing. "Mom, what is it?" My youngest whispered, voice trembling. I bent down, clutching their small hands tightly. "I don't know yet, but I promise we'll be safe," I murmured, though even I didn't believe it. There was no safety here, not in this house, not in the basement. Not as long as the shadow existed and the box contained its terrible secret. The sound of footsteps above grew louder. Slow at first, deliberate, heavy. They were moving toward the stairs that led down to the basement. I realized then that whoever it was, they were not a casual visitor. This person or thing knew the house, knew where I was, and perhaps even knew what we were hiding. My mind raced. Could it be the plumber? No, he wouldn't move like that. And why would he come back without warning? The thought of some unknown intruder sent a cold chill down my spine. The shadow hissed again, louder this time, and I could almost feel the vibration of the sound in my chest. My children's fear intensified. Their small bodies pressed against mine, and I had to stay calm for them. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my hands so I could hold the flashlight with some sense of control. "We have to hide. Or get the box first," I whispered. But before I could decide, the steps paused at the top of the basement stairs. Then I heard a voice. Soft, almost polite. But there was an edge to it. A hidden threat. "I know what's down there," it said. "And I know what your children are hiding." My blood ran cold. How could this stranger know? The shadow stiffened, growling low in response, its glowing eyes darting toward the stairs. I could feel the weight of the box pressing down on me as if it had a power of its own, demanding to be protected. My children whimpered, and I hugged them closer, whispering promises I wasn't sure I could keep. I knew I had to act, but what could I do? I was unarmed, inexperienced, and terrified. The shadow had already shown it could move faster than me, and this intruder seemed to know everything. I decided to take a step that I prayed would be enough. I grabbed the lid of the larger box, determined to peek inside, just a little, to understand the danger. My hands shook violently. The shadow shifted closer to me, growling, almost warning me not to open it. And then I saw it. Inside the box there were papers folded carefully, some old, some new. Strange markings, diagrams, and photographs. My stomach churned. Some of the photographs were of people I didn't recognize, but in them I could see objects, rituals, things that made my skin crawl. The papers contained strange symbols, written in a language I could not read, and yet I understood them instantly because they carried a threat. A darkness, a warning. The shadow hissed and lunged toward the box again. I jumped back, nearly tripping, clutching my children to protect them. The glow in its eyes brightened, and I realized it was more than a shadow. It was alive. It had a purpose. It had been guarding this secret for a reason, and now I had dared to look. Then the intruder spoke again. "Don't touch that," they warned. The voice was closer now. I turned slightly, and through the narrow staircase light, I caught a glimpse of a figure, a man. Tall, dressed in black, and moving with precision. His face was hidden in shadows, but his presence radiated authority and danger. "Step away, or your family will regret it." My mind raced. I had no idea whether to obey or fight. My children were terrified, crying softly, their hands clutching mine. I had to protect them no matter what. I felt anger rise within me, anger at the secret, at the fear, at the shadow and the stranger. But I also felt dread. I realized the danger was far beyond anything I had imagined. This wasn't just a family secret anymore. It was something bigger, something dark, something deadly. And then the shadow moved. Faster than I could track, it surged between me and the intruder. Its long arms reached out, almost like it was warning the stranger off. Like it had chosen me as its protector. Or perhaps it recognized me in some way. The intruder froze, stepping back. And I could see the tension in their body. I realized then the shadow wasn't just a threat. It was part of the secret, part of the story my children had been trying to hide all along. And whatever was inside the box, it had drawn attention from outside forces. Forces I could not fight. Forces that wanted to take this secret from me, no matter the cost. My children clung to me, shaking, and I whispered to them, "It's okay. We'll get through this. Together." But even as I said it, I knew I didn't have all the answers. Not yet. And the intruder was not going to leave without them. The shadow hissed again, louder this time, and I realized whatever we were facing, it was far from over. And as the intruder's hand reached toward the basement stairs, I knew that the next moment could change everything. I still remember that day. The basement felt alive, almost breathing around us, as if it were aware of every movement, every heartbeat. The intruder's hand hovered above the stairs, and the shadow between us hissed, coiling around the box like it was ready to strike. My children were pressed tightly against me, trembling so hard that I could feel their tiny bodies shaking through my clothes. I felt the weight of fear, responsibility, and desperation all at once. I realized then that I had never been so scared in my entire life. The stranger finally spoke again, voice calm but sharp, cutting through the heavy air. "Step aside. I don't want to hurt anyone, but I will if I must." There was authority in his tone, and I knew immediately he was used to being obeyed, used to taking what he wanted. But the shadow didn't move. It stayed firmly between us, growling, low and threatening. Its glowing yellow eyes locked onto the intruder, unflinching, unafraid. I looked down at my children. Their eyes were wide, full of terror and confusion. "Mom, what's happening?" My eldest whispered, voice breaking. I swallowed hard, trying to calm my racing thoughts. I don't know yet," I said, though I knew my words were useless. I didn't know either. All I knew was that the basement, the box, the shadow, and the intruder were all pieces of a puzzle I wasn't ready to solve. The intruder took another step down the stairs, slow and deliberate. "I know what's in that box. Your children have been hiding it, and now you've seen it too. It doesn't belong here. It never should have been brought into this world." His words made my blood run cold. How could a box, something so simple, carry such weight? And why were my children keeping it hidden, almost as if their lives depended on it? The shadow shifted again, its body coiling protectively around the box. I noticed something strange, almost as if it recognized me or understood that I meant no harm. My hands shook as I clenched them together. "Please, don't take it," I whispered, more to the shadow than to the intruder. My voice trembled, but the shadow seemed to respond. Its growl softened slightly. But it didn't let go of its position. My children whispered between themselves small, urgent words I could barely hear. "Mom, it's the ritual. They can't get it." My youngest said, voice trembling. "Ritual?" The word made my heart race even faster. I didn't understand it, but I understood one thing clearly. Whatever was in that box, whatever my children were hiding, it was powerful, dangerous, and not just dangerous to us, could destroy anyone who touched it. The intruder finally reached the bottom of the stairs. His eyes were fixed on the box, but he also looked at us, his gaze sharp and calculating. "Move aside," he said again, and this time there was no hesitation in his tone. He was ready to take it by force. I realized in that moment that I had a choice: step aside and let him take the box, or fight. And fight didn't mean physically. This was a different kind of battle. One that involved fear, trust, and the unknown power that my children had been protecting. I shook my head. "No, you will not touch it," I said, voice firm despite the fear threatening to consume me. The shadow hissed again, louder this time, and the intruder paused. I noticed a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. For a moment, the basement was frozen. Time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then he spoke again, almost quietly, but his words carried weight. "You don't understand what you're holding. It's not just a secret. It's a power, and it will take everything from you if you refuse to give it up." My children clutched me tighter. I felt their fear, their worry, but also a strange sense of determination. They weren't hiding this for fun. They were protecting something, something important, something terrifying. And now everything was coming to a head. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to focus. I had to act, and I had to act quickly. I reached for the box, placing my hand lightly on the lid. The shadow stiffened instantly, but didn't attack. Its growl lowered to a cautious warning. My children whispered urgent words in my ear, guiding me to handle it carefully. The intruder made one final step toward the box. "Give it to me," he shouted, and for a moment I thought he would grab it by force. But then something happened that made my blood run cold. The box itself seemed to vibrate. A low hum filled the basement, the walls trembling slightly. The shadow's glowing eyes flared brightly, and a sudden wind swept through the room, lifting dust and loose papers into the air. I stumbled back, clutching the box with both hands. My children screamed in alarm, but the intruder froze. He looked at the box, wide-eyed, as if he hadn't expected this. The hum grew louder, almost like a voice, and the symbols on the box glowed faintly in the flickering light. And then, in an instant, the shadow leaped forward, not at the intruder, but toward the box itself. Its body seemed to merge with the air around it, forming a protective barrier that pulsed with energy. The intruder stumbled back, shielding his face from the sudden force. My children clung to me, screaming, and I could feel my own body trembling. My heart hammering so violently I thought it would burst. I realized then, with a shock so deep it made my stomach turn, that whatever my children had been hiding, it was alive, and it was defending itself. The shadow, the box, the symbols, all of it was connected, and I had no idea what would happen next. The intruder's face twisted in rage and disbelief. "This isn't over," he shouted, backing up toward the stairs. "You can't keep it forever." But I knew in that moment, whatever the cost, whatever danger lay ahead, I could not let him take it. My children's secret was ours to protect, no matter what. And then, the basement door slammed shut behind the intruder. He was gone for now, but I knew this was only the beginning. I still remember that night. The house was eerily quiet after the intruder had fled. My children were clinging to me, their tiny hands gripping mine so tightly that I could feel their fear coursing through my veins. I felt exhausted, but my mind refused to rest. The basement, the box, the shadow, it had changed everything. I realized in that moment that life as I knew it was over. There was no going back. I guided my children upstairs, trying to calm them. I spoke softly, holding them close. "It's okay. Everything will be fine. I promise," I said, even though the words felt hollow. Deep down, I knew the danger wasn't gone. It was only waiting, hiding, watching for the next moment to strike. I glanced toward the basement door, its dark outline seeming to pulse in the dim light. The memory of the hum, the glowing symbols, and the shadow's protective form replayed in my mind like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. After putting the children to bed, I sat alone in the living room staring at the basement door. My mind raced with questions I didn't have answers for. How had the box come into our lives? Why had my children been hiding it? And what exactly was inside that made even the intruder fear it? I felt my chest tighten with a mixture of fear and guilt. How had I failed to see the danger hiding beneath my own roof? I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I needed answers from my children, but I also needed to be careful. They were frightened, and I couldn't push too hard. I took a deep breath and went to their room, sitting on the edge of the bed. "I need you to tell me everything," I said softly. My voice steady despite the fear threatening to swallow me. Their eyes met mine, wide and hesitant. My eldest spoke first, voice trembling. "Mom, we didn't want to scare you. We only wanted to protect you. Protect me." "From what?" I asked, my heart pounding. They hesitated, then slowly explained. "The box. It's not just a box. It's alive. It holds power. Dark power. We found it years ago, hidden in the old attic before we moved here. It speaks sometimes, and it can hurt anyone who tries to take it." My stomach churned. I felt a cold wave of fear wash over me. My children were telling the truth. Whatever this box was, it was dangerous beyond imagination. "And the shadow?" I asked, still trembling. "Why is it in the basement?" "It protects it," my youngest whispered. "It knows us. It trusts us. But it doesn't trust anyone else. That man, he wanted to take the box. He wanted to use it. We can't let that happen." I sat in silence for a moment, trying to process everything. The house felt heavier, darker. I realized the shadow wasn't the only danger. The box had drawn attention from outside forces we didn't understand. And if the intruder came back, or if someone else found out about it, we could all be in danger. I made a decision. I would not let anyone take this box. I would protect it, my children, and the secret at all costs. But I also knew I needed help. I couldn't do this alone. I started thinking about Allie's people I could trust. People who might understand the power of the box without wanting to exploit it. But the truth was, I didn't know anyone like that. As I pondered my next move, I heard a faint whisper from the basement. My heart jumped. The shadow. It was calling or warning or I didn't know. I moved quietly to the door, trying to listen. The hum started again, faint but unmistakable. The box was calling, signaling something. Alerting someone or something. I realized the intruder might not have been alone. Whoever he was, whatever he wanted, he could come back. And when he did, we would need to be ready. The shadow, the box, my children and we were now part of a story much larger than ourselves. A story filled with danger, mystery, and power beyond imagination. I spent the rest of the night planning. I made sure the basement door was locked and reinforced. I set up a few precautions tools, barriers, and anything that might buy us time. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't be enough. The box had its own will. The shadow would protect it, but it might not protect us and the intruder. He would be back, stronger, more determined, and perhaps willing to do anything to get what he wanted, as dawn broke. I watched the first light creep into the house. It felt strangely peaceful, almost as if the world outside hadn't noticed the chaos inside. But I knew better. The danger was still here, hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. I could feel it. My children sensed it too. We exchanged silent looks, a mix of fear and determination. Whatever came next, we had to face it together. And I knew one thing for certain. Our lives would never be the same again. The box, the shadow, the secret tit had chosen us. And it would not let go easily. The shadow and box are alive, drawing attention from outside forces. The family realizes the danger is far from over, and the intruder may return, more powerful and relentless. I still remember that night. The house was silent, almost too silent, as if it knew something was coming. I couldn't sleep. I paced the living room, my children asleep in their rooms, but restlessly turning in their beds. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind through the windows made my heart race. I kept thinking about the shadow, the box, and the intruder. I knew it was only a matter of time before he or someone else returned. I tried to convince myself that locking the basement door and setting up small barriers would keep us safe. But deep down, I knew it was futile. The box had its own will, and the shadow that protected it was alive, aware, and powerful, but even it could only do so much against an outside threat. My children were still terrified, and I could feel their fear even in their sleep. I wanted to hold them, to tell them everything would be okay. But I didn't know if it would be Dot. Suddenly, I heard a sound of faint tapping on the front door. My heart jumped into my throat. I froze, listening. The tapping came again, slow, deliberate, like a warning. I grabbed a flashlight and crept toward the door, peering through the peephole. Outside, there was no one. Just shadows stretching in the pale moonlight. My stomach twisted. Was it the intruder? Or something else entirely? I decided to check the basement. My hand shook as I approached the door. The shadow was there, lying low, its glowing eyes fixed on me. It hissed softly, almost in warning. I felt a chill run through me. I whispered, "It's okay. It's just me." And the shadow seemed to calm slightly, but it didn't let me pass. I knew then that it had sensed something I couldn't see. Something dangerous approaching. I descended the stairs slowly, flashlight in hand, and my children followed reluctantly. They were awake now, sensing the tension. "Mom, it's him, isn't it?" My eldest whispered, eyes wide. I nodded slightly, trying to appear brave, though fear gripped my entire body. "I think so," I said softly. "But we have to be ready. We have to protect the box. And each other." As we approached the box, the hum began again. Low, vibrating through the floorboards, through my bones. The symbols on the box glowed faintly in the dim light, pulsating with an eerie rhythm. I realized the box wasn't just a container, it was alive, aware, and responding to the danger. My children stood close, hands touching mine, trembling. Suddenly, there was a loud crash upstairs. Something had broken. I froze, heart hammering. The intruder had returned. I didn't know how he had entered or if he had help, but he was here, and he wanted the box. My mind raced. I had to act fast. The shadow moved closer to the box, coiling protectively, but I could see tension in its posture. It knew this would not be easy. I whispered to my children, "Stay close. Whatever happens, stay close to me." They nodded, fear and determination in their eyes. I grabbed a small tool from the basement, a heavy wrench, and held it tightly. Not as a weapon against the intruder, but as a way to protect my family. Then the shadow shifted, and I noticed something incredible. The box began to respond, glowing brighter, almost like it was drawing power from the shadow. Symbols danced across the lid, and a low, melodic hum filled the basement. It wasn't threatening, it was preparing. Preparing for what? I didn't know. But I felt a surge of hope. Somehow, we weren't powerless. The footsteps upstairs grew louder. The intruder was moving down the stairs, careful, calculating. I could hear his breathing, even his heartbeat, as if the house itself amplified every sound. The shadow growled, low and threatening, and the intruder paused. Sensing the presence of something beyond his understanding, I held my children close and whispered, "We can do this. We have to." My eldest nodded, eyes wide but determined, as if the box had given them courage, too. My youngest clutched my hand tightly, shivering but refusing to let go. And then the intruder appeared at the top of the basement stairs. His face was hidden in shadows, but his eyes burned with greed and anger. He stepped down slowly, extending a hand toward the box. "Give it to me," he demanded, voice sharp and cold. "You don't understand what you're holding. Hand it over and no one gets hurt." The shadow surged forward, glowing eyes blazing. The hum from the box became louder, almost deafening, filling the basement with energy. My children screamed, clutching me, and I realized the moment of confrontation had arrived. The box, the shadow, the intruder, and my family were all in the same space now. I took a deep breath, readying myself. Whatever happened next, there was no turning back, and that's when the shadow acted not against me. Not against my children, but in a way I never could have imagined. I still remember that night. The basement felt alive, almost trembling beneath our feet. The hum from the box had grown deafening, filling every corner of the room. My children clung to me, their small hands gripping mine so tightly that I could feel their fear and determination in equal measure. The shadow loomed closer to the intruder, coiling like a snake ready to strike, and the intruder froze for a moment, his eyes widening in disbelief. Suddenly, the shadow surged forward, not attacking, but forming a barrier around the box. A strange energy radiated from it, a glowing force that made the air shimmer and vibrate. The symbols on the box flickered, dancing like flames in the dim light. I could feel the power pulsing through the basement, cold and overwhelming, and yet oddly protective. The shadow was guarding not just the box, but us too. The intruder snarled and stepped forward, moving carefully through the energy barrier. "Step aside," he shouted. "You don't know what you're dealing with." But the shadow didn't budge. Its growl deepened, low and resonant, echoing through the basement walls. My children whispered urgently, "Mom, don't let him take it. It will destroy everything." I felt a surge of determination. I realized then that we couldn't just hide. We had to act. I stepped closer to the box, my hands trembling, and placed my fingers on the glowing lid. The energy surged into me like a wave, strange and powerful. I felt the box respond to me, almost recognizing me as part of the family it was protecting. The hum grew louder, stronger, vibrating through my bones. The intruder's face twisted in frustration and anger. "You don't understand. That power can make you rich, make you strong, give you anything you want," he shouted. But his voice sounded distant, almost muffled. Beneath the thrum of energy radiating from the box, I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "It's not for you," I said, voice steady despite the fear clutching my heart. "It belongs to my family, and we will protect it." My children nodded, their fear mixed with courage. I could feel the box responding to their presence as well, the shadow's protective form wrapping around all of us like a living shield. The intruder made one desperate step forward. The shadow reacted instantly. It surged outward with incredible speed, its glowing eyes burning like fire. I could see the fear on his face, now pure, uncontrollable fear. He stumbled back, almost falling down the basement stairs. The hum from the box escalated into a roar, vibrating in my chest. Deafening and overwhelming, my children screamed, clutching me. But the sound felt almost cathartic-like. The energy of the box was communicating through their voices. The shadow and the box seemed to merge, forming a protective cocoon that pulsed with radiant light. The intruder tried to resist, to push forward, but the energy held him back, invisible and unyielding. And then I saw it. The box began to open on its own, slowly, deliberately. A soft golden light poured from inside, illuminating the basement in a surreal glow. I could see shapes moving inside shapes I couldn't fully understand. It felt alive, intelligent, powerful beyond anything I had ever imagined. The shadow circled the box, guarding it with every ounce of its being, its eyes never leaving the intruder. The intruder screamed in frustration and fear, lunging one last time. But the shadow moved faster. Its arms wrapped around him, lifting him off the ground without touching him directly. He struggled, kicking and shouting, but the energy of the box held him in place. It was clear now whatever this power was, it chose who could touch it and who could not. I held my children close, watching in awe and fear. The intruder's struggle ended abruptly as he vanished into thin air, as if the energy of the box had simply erased him from the basement. The hum softened, the golden light dimmed slightly, and the shadows settled back around the box. Its glowing eyes now calm but alert. I sank to the floor, clutching my children, trembling from exhaustion and fear. We had survived. The intruder was gone. The box was safe for now. But I knew this was only the beginning. Whatever power lived in that basement, it was far from ordinary. And it had chosen us as its protectors, for reasons we didn't fully understand yet. My children whispered to me, still trembling, "Mom, it's not over. It will come back. We have to be ready." I nodded, hugging them tightly. "We will be ready," I promised. Though the words felt heavy with uncertainty, and as I looked at the box, glowing softly in the dim basement light, I realized something terrifying and wonderful. The secret we had been protecting was alive, aware and more powerful than any of us. And it was only beginning to reveal itself. The box's power is revealed in a dramatic confrontation. The intruder is mysteriously vanquished, but the story hints the danger is far from over and the box has its own will. I still remember that night. The basement was quiet now, but it wasn't peaceful. The box glowed faintly, casting soft golden light across the walls, and the shadow curled around it like a loyal guardian. My children and I sat close together, our bodies trembling from exhaustion, fear, and relief. The intruder was gone, or at least, for now. But I knew deep down that the danger wasn't over. The energy of the box was still alive, still pulsing. Then I could feel it watching us. My children whispered to each other, small, urgent words I didn't fully understand. My eldest glanced at me, eyes wide. "Mom, we have to know why it chose us. Why it trusts us." I nodded slowly, heart still pounding. I had no answers, but I knew one thing clearly. We couldn't leave the basement. We had to learn more, understand the box before anyone else came for it or worse. Before it acted on its own in ways we couldn't control. I reached out slowly, placing my hands on the glowing surface. The hum returned, soft at first, then growing steadily, vibrating through my arms and into my chest. The symbols shimmered, moving slightly as if they were alive. I could feel a strange warmth spreading through me, a connection to the box that was both comforting and terrifying. It felt aware. It knew I was here. It knew we were here, my youngest whispered, trembling. It's like it's trying to talk." I listened closely and I realized something through the hum. The vibrations, the golden glow. The box was communicating. It wasn't in words, but in feelings. A strange mix of warning, guidance, and urgency. Something important was coming, something that we had to prepare for. Then I noticed small changes in the shadow. Its glowing eyes were sharper, more intense. Its body moved slightly, as if reading the box's energy and responding. It wasn't just protecting us, it was learning, adapting. I realized that whatever power lived in the box and in the shadow, it was not just magical or dangerous, it was intelligent. It knew its enemies. It knew its friends. And it had chosen us. Hours passed. My children and I stayed in the basement, observing, learning, and listening to the subtle pulses of energy. The box revealed small fragments of its purpose, images, visions, and sensations that I could barely comprehend. Ancient symbols, distant places, people we had never met, warnings of danger, and glimpses of power that made my head spin. I understood one thing clearly. The intruder had wanted to use it for himself, to take control of its energy. But that was impossible. The box chose its guardian, and we're now part of something far bigger than ourselves. As midnight approached, I heard a faint, soft sound from above the creak of the stairs. My heart stopped. Was it the intruder returning? Or someone else? I gripped my children close, whispering, "Stay calm. Whatever happens, stay together." The shadow hissed softly, moving closer to us, ready to defend. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in the basement, and I realized the box was reacting to something outside the house. Energy surged through the room like lightning, making the walls shake. The shadow leaped to the box, wrapping around it, its eyes blazing. My children screamed, clutching me tightly, and I felt the hum rise to a deafening roar. Then, silence. Complete, suffocating silence. My chest ached from holding my breath. The box's glow faded slightly, but it still pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. The shadow relaxed, curling around it once more. I exhaled slowly, holding my children, trying to calm the racing thoughts in my mind. But deep down, I knew that silence wasn't safety. It was a warning. Something or someone was coming. Something that the box, the shadow, and even my children's courage might not be enough to stop. I realized with a cold, sinking feeling that the true test of the box's power and of our ability to protect it was yet to come. And then, just as I began to hope that we might survive the night, a soft, almost whispering voice echoed from the box itself. "They are coming." Soon the box begins to reveal its intelligence and purpose. The shadow shows its awareness, and a mysterious threat is approaching, signaling a final confrontation is imminent. I still remember that night. The basement was filled with a strange, glowing light, the hum of the box vibrating through every inch of the room. My children clung to me, their faces pale but determined. The shadow curled around the box like a protective barrier, its glowing eyes scanning every corner, every dark space, ready to react to the slightest movement. I realized then that this night would change our lives forever. The box pulsed faster, brighter, as if sensing the approaching danger it had warned us about. I could feel its energy in my bones, in my very soul. The intruder, or whoever he had been, was not the only one coming. The box, alive and intelligent, had revealed that there were others drawn by its power, forces beyond our understanding seeking to claim it. I held my children close and whispered, "Whatever happens, we stay together. We protect it." And then the shadows in the corners of the basement began to shift. Faint, almost human-like figures emerged from the darkness. I could barely make out their faces, but their intent was clear. They had come for the box. The shadow guarding it hissed, growing larger, more menacing, as if it were ready to fight the intruders on our behalf. My children and I huddled together, hearts racing. "Mom, what do we do?" my youngest whispered, voice trembling. I swallowed hard. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew one thing. We were part of this now. The box had chosen us, and whatever came, we had to protect it. I stepped forward cautiously, placing my hands on the glowing lid. The hum surged like a wave, and suddenly the box opened fully. Inside, I saw something I couldn't have imagined. Brilliant, swirling light, shifting forms, energy that seemed alive, intelligent, and benevolent. It radiated power, but also understanding, like it knew we were its protectors. The shadow reacted instantly, moving between us and the intruders. The figures in the basement froze, their movements halted by the energy radiating from the box. The golden light pulsed outward, surrounding us, shielding us from harm. My children gasped, feeling the warmth, the safety, the connection to something greater than themselves. And then the box spoke not in words, but in a voice inside my mind, calm, commanding, yet gentle. You are chosen. Protect me, and I will protect you. The danger will come, but you are ready. The intruders faltered, unable to approach, their greed and anger repelled by the box's power. The shadow's growl filled the room, a warning that they could not ignore. One by one, they disappeared into the darkness from which they had come, unable to touch what was protected by our courage, the shadow and the box itself. I sank to the floor, holding my children, tears streaming down my face. We had survived. We had faced the danger and the unknown, and we had won not through strength alone, but through trust, courage, and the bond we shared. The shadow lowered itself back around the box.com now, almost serene, its duty fulfilled for the moment. My eldest whispered, "Mom, it's safe, isn't it?" I nodded, holding both of them tightly. Yes, for now. But we must always protect it. I realized then that the box had chosen us not only because it could sense our courage, but because it trusted us to do what was right. We were now guardians of something extraordinary, something that could change lives, for good or for ill, depending on how we handled it. The night passed slowly, the glow of the box dimming to a gentle warmth. The shadow remained ever vigilant. My children and I stayed close together, talking quietly, planning, learning to understand the box's power and purpose. We were no longer ordinary. We were protectors, chosen for a task we didn't fully understand yet, but we would rise to it. And as dawn broke, the light spilling through the basement window, I whispered to my children, "We did it, together, and we will face whatever comes next together." They nodded, smiling faintly despite the exhaustion and fear. We had survived the night, survived the danger, and discovered the truth behind the secret we had all been protecting. I looked at the box one last time before heading upstairs. It glowed softly, calm, alive, as if acknowledging our courage and our bond. And I knew that our lives had changed forever. The secret, the shadow, the power, it was ours to protect. And we would do it, no matter what. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, sometimes the most dangerous secrets are the ones closest to home.